Greetings and welcome to Jefficho Films. Today we're going to talk about a 1981 horror movie directed by James L. Conway, who's gone on to direct TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, even The Orville, and writer James Kouf, who did Stakeout, The Hidden, Rush Hour, National Treasure. So I think we're in for a treat here. Well, let's review The Boogens. The movie starts out with some old-timey pictures of some mining. It was very rich, and then there were cave-ins, and then we get newspaper articles about people being trapped in there and people being attacked in there, and then the mines were closed. Then we hit snow time in present day, which I'm thinking is 1981, and 4 men and a generator are heading into a mine that's been closed since 1912, and Brian's checking out structural supports. He's reopened a few mines in his time. We learned that Roger's planning on setting his friend Mark up with his girlfriend Jessica's friend Trish. And Brian and Dan set off some dynamite, and an old man sees this, and he seems pretty upset by it. Martha's driving her car out to the house that she's selling to Roger, and she sees a deer, and she manages to avoid it, but then her car gets stuck in a snowbank. Just use your cell phone, call for, oh yeah, 1981. Sucks to be you. She does manage to get back to the house or whatever and walk there, and she's got the key and she unlocks it, and she does call her boyfriend, just to give him an update though. Blanchard, the old guy from the mine, drives up there and he stares at the house before he stares into the window, and we see Martha's heading downstairs. This is where you die. She ends up lighting the furnace and then heading back upstairs and turning off all the lights. Martha's in a nightgown reading her book in bed, and we see something stirring and she senses it, so she goes to the kitchen and grabs a knife. Smart girl. Unfortunately, it sneaks up on her and drags her into the basement. The next day, Deputy Greenwalt calls in a car, and the boys are at it again, and they're supposed to find 2 paths in this mine, but they find 3, and they go in and they find a cave-in and they have to clear it out. Jessica's driving her friend Trish in a VW Beetle named Molly. We also learned that Roger's penis is named Herman. Terrible name. And they have a mop dog named Tiger, and they let him out to go to the washroom, but he runs off. And they go searching for him and eventually give up, and then they go back to the car and find this.
Cute. Let's strangle the little bastard.
The guys clear the cave-in and they find a sweet cave with a huge body of water and a ton of skulls and bones, about 20 to 30 people. You gotta know that's not a natural occurrence or the result of a cave-in. Jess is worried about the small town vibe and moving in with Roger and Mark as they just bought this house, and Trish complains about the bathwater being cold, so she heads into the basement. Man, are all basements in older homes this creepy? She lights the furnace, but hears creaking from many directions, so she investigates, but it's a false alarm. Brian wants Roger to get up early the next day and get the updated maps, and says that he can swing by the bar where Dan and Brian are going to be and get the work truck off of them. And Jess screams, which gets Trish's attention, which leads to an awkward introduction for Trish and Mark.
And I thought you were being attacked by a total stranger.
Hiya, Trish.
No wonder you two guys get along so well. You both love the same crummy jokes.
I'm sorry. I'm Mark.
I like the fact that Tiger wants to get involved. Mark has a chat with Tiger, and it's actually some pretty good dialogue between him, Trish, and Tiger, and they're hitting it off pretty well.
Oh, did she tell you what I got Tiger for Christmas? Oh, I made a miniature doggy electric chair.
Do you do this for a hobby? Or are you a professional pet executioner?
I'm just putting my college education to work.
Deputy Greenwalt comes by looking for Martha Chapman, and Roger has to stop having sex with Jess long enough to talk to the deputy, but he's not much help. Trish and Mark suggest having dinner before they go back to going at it, and then they leave Tiger behind. I hope he's going to be okay, because he's adorable. We see movement in the basement, and stupid Tiger has to try and hide, but it doesn't look good. They swing by the bar and Roger gets his keys off his boss and heads out, while the rest stay there for dinner and have some food and drinks, and Jess schools Dan at pool. Roger gets back to his place with a plan to get at least a couple hours of sleep before he has to get up at 3 a.m. to go get those maps, but the place is a mess and no Tiger in sight. And Trish and Mark, well, they're flirting.
Jess, I think we're going to be heading back to the ranch.
Thank God. I couldn't win another dime. I'm so embarrassed.
I'm so broke.
We're gonna go back to the house as Jess is gonna stay behind and win more money at pool. Roger can't sleep, so he gets up and he hears some noises and goes out to the garage and is attacked. Trish and Mark arrive home and they're just about to kiss when Roger's alarm goes off. But it only slows them down. They start to do it by the fire and something starts crawling around and watching them from down low. Can't blame it. And then it sneaks up right on them and it's... Next morning, Mark leaves a naked Trish in bed before he heads off to work, and he runs into Jess, who asks him if he's seen Tiger because he didn't sleep with her last night. So they go into the basement and they find a boarded up entrance to a cave and worried that Tiger might have gone in there. So they go upstairs and there's Tiger. It's fine. Also, Jess is very happy that Mark and Trish are getting along. And then Mark goes to work.
I have to say it was vandals, I guess. Vandals? It's pretty weird for vandals.
Trish and Jessica are cleaning and baking, and they talk about whether Jessica and Roger would ever get married, and also that Trish might go into town because she's actually an assistant to a paper, and she might do a story on these mines. Blanchard keeps snooping around and ends up stealing some dynamite, and inside the mine they set up some lights, and Mark points out what I said earlier.
Well, if these men died from gas or lack of oxygen, or even if they starved, it seems like we would have found each skeleton separate, not a pile of random bones.
Jessica noticed some tire tracks leading up to the garage, and the truck is still in there. Meanwhile, Trish is going through articles about the mines at the Silver Gazette till Jessica calls. Trish heads up to the mine site to inform Mark about the truck still being there, and she also mentions that she read an article about a miner that was attacked and they tried to cover it up. And then she heads back to get some groceries. Inside the cave, Dan is hearing noises in the water, and Jessica's taking a shower, and Tiger hears noises coming from a vent, and they did it. They pulled the vent apart and then it implied killed Tiger. Not happy about that. Jessica gets attacked and she's getting pulled into the vent and her arm gets cut up pretty badly. She gets free and goes into a room and tries to hide behind the door, but it comes up through the vent, breaks down the door, and vengefully cuts her up good. Dan sees something in the water and climbs in. It's Roger's body with his face torn. Blanchard shows up and says that he's been warning them. That's what you've been doing. The blasting has opened up these tunnels which leads to the houses. Everything's connected. And then he says that he's the son of the miner who knew what was going down. The creature grabs Dan and pulls him through the water, and Blanchard decides to light some dynamite before he gets taken, which actually collapses the entrance, and Brian's stuck in there. Trish gets home and she sees the blood on the ground, and a door ripped down, and the blood leads to the basement. And Mark called the cops and they actually meet on the road on their way to the house. I'd say it's stupid for Trish to head downstairs, but it's what a good friend would do. She hears some noises and then trips on Jess's body. It's all torn open. We finally see a little bit of the monster. It kind of looks like a turtle. Mark and a deputy show up, and the deputy just starts shooting it. And then he gets a little too close when he's looking at it, but I'm just being paranoid. Nothing happens. Okay, I lied. It eats his face and claws him. Mark manages to grab a pitchfork and stab it. But the gas line is ruptured and the stairs are on fire. And I don't think this is a good idea, but they head into the tunnels. And then the house explodes and so it collapses and they have no choice but to go that way. And then Mark is grabbed by one of those things, but Trish saves him. And they run into Brian, and he says there's more of them, and that they're gonna have to blow the mine. And then he's strangled by one. Moves pretty fast for a turtle-like creature. I guess slow and steady doesn't always get the kill. Well, they get to the entrance, and they blow up the mine. Trish and Mark survive. The end. This was a $600,000 budget well spent, though I question the creatures not eating their kills. I mean, what did they eat down there all those years? Rebecca Balding played Trish, and I really liked her in this. She also did a movie in '79 called The Silent Scream, so I might do that one too. She's gone on to do a lot. Fred McCarren as Mark was good. He had some good chemistry with her.
Can you imagine Roger a father?
No.
I'd probably end up with 8 horny little rugrats drinking beer all day. No thanks.
I also enjoyed the performance of Anne-Marie Martin, who played Jessica. I thought everybody in this was pretty good. And Jeff Harlan, who played Roger, well, he's the only one still going today in acting. In the end, this was a really good find. I thought the writing was really good. I enjoyed the conversations between the characters, even their jobs and everything. It all made sense. I mean, it's a really simple concept, and the turtle-like creatures are pretty awesome, especially when they get angry. I mean, there's a lot of cool pictures of them angry. So if you like horror movies and you haven't checked this one out, you should add this to your list because it's definitely worth watching. It's a fun movie. And the dog is amazing. What a well-trained dog, I gotta say.
Yeah, you stay. That's right, you can't go, because you don't have a date. And don't chew on anything while I'm gone. That goes for socks, robes, shirts, chairs, and underwear.
Well, as always, thanks for watching.